Good morning. Just getting, good morning. Just gonna put it here. Today is going to be a little bit different. I titled today's Happy Monday, Courtney. How are you? I titled today's video Monday Motivation. Oh, hi, Gina in Northern California. Are you a Lipedema girl too? This dress is fire. So cute. And it is a Ross find. And look at all the detail. It's really, really cute and really comfortable. Oh, nice. Starting to work today. I love that. Hey, how are you? Nice to see you back. Let me see if Karen is here. Let me see. Right, Paulina? Isn't it adorable? You'll never believe where I got it at. I got it at Ross. Dress for Less. Oh, that's a good question. We've got a good question. So today, actually drop your, thanks, Nate. Today, today, oh, I see her here. Hold on. Okay, let's see if she can come in. I'm bringing Karen Windsor in on Instagram. We're projecting, that's not the right word, from both Instagram and YouTube today. And let me shut off the comments in Instagram. I don't know how to shut off the comments.
Hello.
Hi. I don't know.
What you need to do after is put the one up from last week so that people can have that.
Yes. That technology did not work last week. Okay, someone is asking, okay, I'll come back to that. I can't even think. So anyway, we're calling this one Monday Motivation as opposed to Monday Movement because both Karen and I are under the weather. And since it's Lipedema Awareness Month, we decided that we should come in and
we didn't want to let you down, like if you're on, but we'll use it as more of a, if you've got any questions, ask us.
Yes.
I've had a fibro flare. I had it on Thursday. And it's gone right the way into the weekend. I've slept for hours and hours and hours. You can see that I have got no energy in my face. And it's something that you have to travel through. It's all in my jaw. And it was in my arms. My arms wouldn't straighten. And that's because the stress had related to the cells becoming inflamed and pushing into the nerves, causing uncontrollable pain. When that happens, you have to, even if you don't want to, you have to down tools and rest. I have done that in the past where I've just carried on and caused myself a problem. And it's not a good idea.
Yes.
Because you just create an even bigger problem. You need to let yourself rest, come back to where you are, and sort of ride the wave. And this is why I put the post up that I did today about lipedema, because I suddenly had an epiphany sitting in bed this morning thinking, if I went to the doctor now, would I get diagnosed? And I thought it's highly unlikely in the state of play that we're in right now that I would actually get diagnosed.
No. I didn't read the post yet. Can you give a brief on it?
It was about lipedema in obesity. Mm-hmm. So it was about me with lipedema now and with lipedema then, and how I was diagnosed as stage 3, very poorly, when actually a majority of that was actually obesity weight. It wasn't lipedema.
So what you're saying...
And I think that that's something that we're finding commonly through the community. But I did state underneath that I do think that there are different strands of lipedema, and that I know firsthand, and I have friends who have lost weight in different ways, and their lipedema has not changed.
So what
they have lost from certain areas, but other areas have not moved. So that says to me that there's a very different strand of lipedema. That's just my opinion. It's not common knowledge. It's certainly not research knowledge. But when I see that in other people, it makes me look at my lipedema compared to somebody else's lipedema. But I think what the big one is for me at the moment is that I know a couple of women who are about to go, one who's gone through bypass surgery,
Gastric
and another
bypass.
one who's about to go through bypass surgery.
Oh, sheesh. Gastric bypass.
Hello?
Gastric bypass.
Yeah. And
well, when people say surgery, when people say bypass surgery that are not in the weight loss community, that is always been commonly referred to heart surgery. So when we just say it like that, that gets confusing for people.
Okay, so gastric bypass surgery. And I've seen quite a lot of fear in both ladies. One who is well into her journey, and who didn't think she would lose from her legs, but she clearly is. And then another one who's just in the liver detox stage of things, and she's very paranoid that she's not going to lose anything. And yet, even if and I tried to say to her, even if you only lose in certain areas, that's still going to be beneficial to your body. We're still going to have a benefit to you losing weight, whether you do it through gastric bypass, whether you do it through keto, whether you do it through Slimming World, whatever, you're still going to have, because when I take myself back to the day that I was diagnosed and I was told stage 3, there's nothing, you need compression, you need to look at your diet, blah, 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 blah. I never really was. I was diagnosed, and my argument will always be, I never really was, because a majority of that was obesity weight, which is the taboo subject that you cannot talk about.
Well, so I have so many things to say right now.
Go for it.
So yes, a lipedema woman is no different than any other woman or any other man. If they have excess weight, it should come off. Simple as that. Yes, they may have lipedema weight. The lipedema weight may be the majority of their weight, but they don't know what it is or it isn't. So
no, and that's the whole point.
So that's one thing. So are you better off from weighing 400 pounds to weighing 300 pounds? Because somebody would call that, I failed. I failed at gastric bypass. I still weigh 300 pounds. Well, guess what? You're still 100 pounds less than you were.
Exactly
so
my
there's
point.
that. Okay. The second thing is that in regard to diagnosis, so unfortunately, I initially agreed with you that if you went in to be diagnosed with lipedema right now, you might not be diagnosed. However, that was my immediate reaction. But I'm actually rethinking that immediate reaction to the reality. And the reality is probably now, if you went to get diagnosed, you probably would be seen as having it because they could feel it. It's there, right? Your physical therapist can feel it and recognize that it's there. So they would feel it, and now you're a slimmer person, so you're going to be treated more like a slimmer person, and you are going to be taken more seriously than when you were bigger.
No. So the way it worked for me, I was taken seriously when I was bigger. I was under the best kind of care, and this is where we've got a difference with the UK to the United States.
Okay.
Women who look like me here are going to struggle to get a diagnosis. This is what I fight for. This is why I fight for the lower stages within my treatment and everything else, because they are not recognised. They're like a normal woman. There's no recognition to it.
See, I think here, when I think about it, the second that somebody goes in with lipedema and they're at a lower stage, like a 1 or a 2, early, 1 or early 2, I think they're immediately given the tools like, oh, let's get you into compression. Oh, let's get you into therapy.
And I see
that
all the time. I mean, the kind of work
surgery
that goes on in the clinics in the States is by far completely different to what it is down here, like with the different tests and things that you guys have. And then I'll talk to another American lady and she'll say there's nothing. And so I think it, again, is postcode lottery on where you are in America, where you can see somebody, where you can go to a GP or a physician or whoever it is that you would normally go to.
Yeah. We have Kate over here. I think in the UK it is known a lot more. But she said I had to seek out a specialist and tell them what I had. So the reality is that the majority of women who have been diagnosed with lipedema are basically diagnosed after they seek out diagnosis. So it's not typical that a woman is going into her doctor and even for a regular appointment, or even saying, oh, I have leg pain, and then the doctor goes, oh, you have lipedema. That is like rarely happens. The way it usually happens is a woman finds out on social media from someone like me or Karen that they have lipedema, that there's this disease called lipedema. And then they read about it, they learn about it, they get in contact with us, whatever, and then they go and they seek diagnosis. And so the reason to seek diagnosis is to get it on your record for sure, because you don't know what's going to happen down the future. And then it helps you to start getting treatment. Like in the UK, when you get that treatment, you're then going to be able to get compression that is provided for you, right? At some times. So, here you might be able to get that, depends how it works. Or who you see, or what kind of advocacy is going on. So there is, typically it is not something that your doctor is finding, because most doctors don't know anything about it. And so it is a disease where you really have to advocate for yourself, and you really have to educate yourself. And if you go to the Fat Disorders Conference, if you're there in person, it's a conference where there are patients and medical professionals, and then vendors who help, within the diseases. And it's hilarious because the amount of knowledge that is shared at that is as if everybody is a medical professional, because the women know so much, that are afflicted know so much about the disease, because everybody has to be researching and digging deeper and finding new ways and learning different things, that it's oftentimes that we're educating the medical professionals. So I remember when I went to my first convention and I went to dinner with 12 women on the first time, and I actually had in my life growing up and in my family, I have a lot of doctors and nurses and medical people. So medicine is my comfort level. I generally understand what people are talking about. I generally, I can contribute to the conversation because I know and I understand. And I was sitting there like in complete amazement, like, oh, this is just like being at a medical, at a table full of, 12 doctors, because the amount of intricacies that everybody knew and brought to the net, one comment would then spur somebody else's comment that was like crazy. But so we do ultimately have to be our own advocate and make sure that we're getting what we need. I think we should take a step back, because since we are in a Lipedema Awareness Month and not everybody knows what lipedema is, there's someone on YouTube who's saying, thank you very much. I never knew what lipedema was until I heard you. So we know that the awareness is working, or these conversations are working. And, we know that it's a grassroots effort. For me, that I had no test and paid $700. Who did you see? Who did you see? And where are you located, Kate? So lipedema is a adipose tissue, an additional layer of adipose tissue affecting mostly women, 1 in 9. That affects the lower half of the body, as well as in 80% of the cases, the arms, most typically the upper arms. And it is tender to the touch often. It is heavy, very heavy. There are little, usually granules, or like in my case, in my arms, it feels like a bag of pearls. You should have seen me at the beach party letting people feel my arms yesterday, because if I said to one more person, oh, this lusciousness is from a disease, and they were like, what are you talking about? Men and women alike. And so people were interested to know. Bruising, I somehow showed up today with a bruise on the inside of my knee. This is called fat pads or knee pads, and this affects your gait. This bulge here on the below the left knee is typically a hallmark in the below the left knee, and then these lobules, so to speak, above the knees are also hallmarks. And then the on the hips, you can see my hip this is like, I wish you could see how heavy that is, but it's very heavy. This is and also a lobule, and then on the inner part is, if you see, oh, there you go. So that's like also called a lobule. So that would be in a stage 3 when you start to develop those type of lobules. Now the difference in staging, so I was 20 pounds less when I was diagnosed in 2017, and I had just come off of a 6 months of 3 days in the gym with a trainer, the other 3 days by myself, weightlifting. All of it was focused on weightlifting, and protein shakes, bars, and maybe one piece of protein and vegetable for dinner. Very regimented 6 months. And so when I went in with my diagnosis, I had a 6-pack and I was in fighting shape, and I was considered a stage 2. Fast forward to my scale going up 30 pounds, and then I was considered a stage 3. So had my lipedema really progressed? Not so sure. I like to think actually that it really was the case of the additional weight, not the lipedema weight. I don't.
Well,
really...
you're proving that theory because you're smaller than when you were at the beginning of the year, and I've seen the differences between your leg from last year to this year in a photo, and that says to me that is exactly what that is.
Well, the interesting part. So this is like, this never would have happened last year. This looseness, like yesterday when I was at the beach, and I could see from a video how loose this all is.
Yeah, but the looseness hasn't come from your diet, and the looseness hasn't come from your exercise.
Yes, it has partially
come from treatment that you're doing in the jacuzzi, where you're breaking down through the fibrosis and you're breaking down the fascia. Yes. That's the only way that it's becoming loose. Through training and diet, that's not how the skin becomes as loose as it is becoming, because you need to physically break down the fibrotic tissue to be able to let the fluid and inflammation go through the interstitial tissue back into the lymph.
So I disagree, because I think that it's from taking berberine for a year that has
berberine would have had, but berberine is a supplement that breaks down fibrosis.
Sure, that has allowed the fibrosis to be able to start releasing. I think that the nutrition, the change in nutrition, has allowed more inflammation and has allowed for more release of fat. So it's not, my legs are not as full as they were. And I believe that the movement, because I can see it every day, when I do my full workouts, when I do my half an hour of walk at the park and my 45 minutes of F45, my legs are completely different the next day. So I believe for my body, and this goes back to what we originally said, everybody's different. I believe that movement is an absolute key. Somebody was asking me yesterday, if you could only change someone's diet or you could only change their movement, what would you do? And I said, it depends. If they're 400 pounds, I would change their diet. If they were 200 pounds, I would change their movement. So that's my particular thing. Because if you can't, now, I'm not talking about somebody who eats a standard American diet and is 200 pounds. I'm not talking about that person. I'm talking about somebody who is constantly working with their nutrition and doing all kinds of things and whatever. But if you could only give them one, I think that the movement, for me, I think that movement is key for that person. But this goes back to what you originally said, is that as a person who used to be 400 pounds, I do not believe that somebody gets to be 400 pounds simply with lipedema. I think that that's hogwash. And I am a person who proved that, because I was able to lose 230 pounds. So, okay. Whatever.
So this is why there's those of us in the community that have found each other, because this is exactly what we're doing. And I was crossing the subject this morning and thinking, do I put this out? Because it is a taboo subject. I have seen. But when I have tried to talk about it before, in different groups, or if I've tried to talk about it in person to people, you do get a varied response, because it is seen to be a subject that's not supposed to be spoken about.
Well, that's because people don't want to admit their shortcomings, right?
Yeah, well, in my clinic, it is the first topic of conversation that is spoken about. Alongside, whatever that person wants to achieve. And often or not, it goes alongside the treatment side of things.
Nate, I like your math. Nate is asking, are you 170 pounds now? No, Nate, I wish I was 170 pounds now, because I would be golden. And that's the goal. But I am up 50 pounds, Nate. So you do the math on that one. It depends on the day, but let's go with those round
Yes,
numbers.
but the other thing is as well, get away from those scales, because it's very obvious that you have lost in volume and size.
Yes.
I can pull up pictures from only a couple of months ago and put them side by side of you, and you can see that there's a difference. Now, a post went out today about the scales. I can't remember who did it, and somebody put a post out of their client before and after, and she made it very obvious, and she said, not 1 pound has my client lost, but she has lost 3 dress sizes.
Right. So for a lipedema person, the scale is a liar. The scale is a liar. It doesn't reflect how much, what size we wear, what, I was actually just wondering, this is a brand new dress.
The last time I was weighed is when I go to the clinic, which I haven't been to. Actually, I'm going to the clinic next month.
Hold on, I'm checking something.
But the last time I was weighed was January 2020.
Uh-huh. And then you'll weigh again this time?
Huh?
You will weigh again this time?
No. They'll try.
Yeah.
But no, because I don't see the point in it. But the last time I went in and I argued it turned into a bit of an argument. So I agreed to be weighed, but I didn't want to know what I weighed. So I was weighed, but I didn't look and wasn't told.
Okay. I was checking to see what size this dress is.
And the problem is, I've done so much work over the last how many years to fight against my own mental health because of this disease, and how it has made me feel throughout the 17 years of being ill from lymphedema to then being diagnosed with lipedema, constantly battling against a number that makes me feel like shit. So why should I constantly be battling against a number that makes me feel bad about myself? And then why should I know about that number? Because it does nothing for my life,
and it doesn't
affect my mental health again.
Right, and it doesn't help with anything, knowing that number, because even I was having this discussion the other day with someone about like clothes sizes. So I stepped away to see if I could see what size this dress was, because I was noticing that this dress is adorable, and it fits the way that it should, but even likely I would have been able to, thank you very much, Habibu. Oh, that's so fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This dress, I just stepped away to see, and it is a size large. So a size large, somebody who weighs 220 pounds is not wearing a size large. They're not. So that's a joke. Now with lipedema, we of course weigh more because we have the granules in our body that nobody else has, and then we have all the gooey interstitial fluid that's heavy and nobody has. So we naturally weigh more. I remember when I was at my lowest and my endocrinologist said, you're likely you're not going to get any. I think I wore a size 4 skirt, and he's like, likely you're not going to get any smaller, because you're not going to weigh less, because your body, your bones, and your circulatory system weighs more. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous, because what did I know? But just the other day when I thought about that, I was like, you know what? I wonder if he damn knew about lipedema and just never told me. Like, that's just crazy, because this guy was he was an incredible researcher and very astute in the field. And so I just wonder, but in any case, so that number, but speaking of going to the doctor, remember when I was going to go to the doctor the other day, and I said, I'm going to see if I can advocate for myself to not weigh and get weighed. And so the the nurse who weighed me was actually a big guy. Like he was a cool 350-pound guy. And I said, so do I actually have to get on the scale? And then of course he had to confirm that I was 5'4 1/4. So I was like, can we just make it 5'5"? And he's like, yeah, no, I just don't see it. I was like, okay, fine. But give me that quarter, please. So I was like, so I waited home this morning. Can we go with that number? Because I really don't want to be weighed. I'm like, it's a fair, like I know it's a fair number, what it's not like I'm some woman who doesn't know what I weigh, right? Like I'm not trying to whatever trick you or lie or whatever. And I understand in this arena we want to know, where did I start? So and he's like, sure, I think we can go with that. So I was like, oh, yay. So and I think at that moment,
is a conversation, and that is what a lot of women who go in and see professionals don't do. They never question whether or not they have to. Because when a person says, right, I'm going to go and weigh you now, we're going to go and do this now, we're going to go and do that now, everyone goes, okay, okay.
Yeah.
And you never question why and I've seen it happen so many times where you're then weighed and then taken into a room and they say, right, you are such and such.
I have to see something.
So what's your diet? What?
Yeah. Well,
she's like doing a disappearing act.
I am doing it. Hold
on. What's your diet like and what exercise do you do? And I find it all very patronizing, especially when it's quite obvious that is something that I do.
Yeah. So I use it as a point of education. So basically, I said to him, I said, I have a disease called lipedema, and I weigh regularly, and I don't feel that I want, it gets to be too much, and so I have the information, can you use that, blah, blah, blah. Which then led to, now we're in the room, and now he has to take my blood pressure. And I said, remember that disease that I told you about is lipedema? And he said, yes, I think I've heard of it. And I said, well, it's often very difficult for people to have their blood pressure taken because the pressure hurts so much. And people often do it on the arm or sometimes on the ankle if they don't have the ankle cuff. So I said, do you have the big cuff? Because also, for everyone, people with lipedema or not, if you have a bigger arm, even if you're, some man with, really jacked up muscles, that you have big, you're a big muscly guy, when you have the cuff and it is not the right size for your arm, the reading will be incorrect and it will read higher. So I wanted to, and I was very nervous and very anxious that day, so I figured my blood pressure was going to be through the roof anyway. And so I said, do you have the big cuff? They actually had very big chairs in the room, so I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe they will have this. And so they did have the bigger cuff. And he says, well, would you like me to do it on the wrist? Or what he offered was, what he thought would hurt less is if he did it manually and not with the machine, which I had never thought, because he said you don't have to pump it up as much as what the machine would do. So I said, no, I'm okay. Like, basically for me, I just have to grimace through it. Like, it gets to the tightest part and I'm just like, holding my breath and going, God, that hurts. And then it's done. But it's not for me, like, I'm going to pass out or it's so painful that it's going to hurt me or bruise me or whatever. So I was like, no, I don't need that accommodation. But, everybody should know that you can have these accommodations if you speak up. So, and use the time to educate the person. So,
and that is something that we don't do. I do a lot.
yes.
And I speak up for other people, but
Yes.
and I get people to speak up for themselves now as well, because
exactly.
it's the unknown.
Correct. Yes. Let me get back over here to these questions, because we did have a very good question. Last time, they rounded my height to 6 feet, and I'm staying with that. There you go. Yeah, that quarter, Nate. I just love that quarter. I was 5'5" at some point. Okay, let me see. Kate, I realized that I never got to see what she said. Hold on. Oh, I had the no test, paid $700. Someone through the hospital. I live in Idaho. Good Lord, I wonder who that was, but at least they knew. I also didn't know about Lynn. I think it's sexy. Yes, well, we know that there is an appeal with the curvature for some, because there are all kinds of different lipedema bodies. I happen to have the classic one.
That's what I put in my post.
I measured.
That's what I put in my post.
What?
I said about when I would have been bigger, I would have had all the characteristics for lipedema.
Yeah.
I would have had the smaller waist, the shelf, the hips, the legs. I didn't have it so much in the lower legs, but it was above, from just under the knee above.
Yes.
And it was very humped across the front of the leg.
Yeah. Like mine is now? Or more so?
It was very like that across.
See, mine's not really that. Right?
No, yours is not that. Mine was very
like where it was more here, front. Where you had it bigger here. You had a bigger, or it was like more of a shelf lobule there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of went all the way down to the knee.
Yeah.
But it was solid. Like you couldn't. Yeah. You know, like how you said.
Yeah, like mine used
your
to be.
legs got wobbly.
Yeah.
It was solid, and no amount of like. For me, this is just me, no amount of what I did with the body coach or anything like that solidness just got smaller, very, very minimally smaller. Yeah. But it wasn't until I started breaking down the fascia and the fibrosis that I ended up with very loose legs. Yeah. Right. And then the next stage of that was building the muscle to then strengthen the legs so that they were, I suppose, as normal as you could possibly get. I mean, they still wobble. They definitely wobble. But they're a lot stronger because there's muscle, because the muscle is now coming through, because it's not stuck in the fascia and the fibrosis. Right.
I do want to say, Kate mentioned here that she learned that the scale is a liar, and she now measures her limbs as a way to keep track of
Measuring your limbs is the best way to go, because you will lose inflammation.
Yes.
And you will lose in volume size.
Yes.
And this is where a lot of people get this wrong, because this is a similar thing for my clients. When they lose volume size, it's almost an instant, oh, I've lost weight kind of thing.
Right.
You haven't. You've lost inflammation.
Correct.
And fluid that's going through the interstitial. So like the jelly interstitial tissue fluid that we've been taught about isn't so jelly-like when you're having the treatment or you're pushing it through to the lymph, and it just decreases the volume size.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that there's been a loss. So when I did when I put out the picture of my back and my friend's back from blasting, the immediate response and messages I got were, how much weight have you lost? Oh, I can see that that's weight loss. There must be weight loss involved in that. honest to God, no word of a lie, because those posts went on the fascia blasting Facebook pages, I received nearly 1,000 messages, and I'm still trying to get through them. And it has been crazy. The last 2 days have been crazy. It's the post has been seen over 3,000 times, and the messages are just coming through thick and fast. And crazily enough, the one thing is, what diet are you on? How have you managed to do that? How much weight have you lost? Blah blah blah. I don't weigh myself, but I can honestly say I don't think I've lost any weight whatsoever. I don't see weight loss in that at all. I see a girl who has really worked really hard to get muscle into her body, and the muscle has been stuck behind the tissue, and the tissue's been broken down, and the muscle has come through. It is just a structure change to the shape of the body.
Yeah, I think
with maybe, if you want to be facetious about it, maybe 1 or 2 pounds have gone. But I very much doubt it, because all the clothes that I've got, everything fits me. They just fit me better because my structure is different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, whatever, we've talked about this a million times, that at some point you need to get away from the scale.
Yeah.
At some point, it's helpful for a reality check, right? But at some
it's
point,
helpful for a reality check.
It's
yes.
not. It's not.
If that's what you need in your life, if you don't need
Sure.
that reality check, and you can just carry on doing the measurements, look at your clothes, how things are fitting.
Right.
For us women who are going through our monthly cycle, you'll see that your monthly cycle will change.
Right.
Your inflammation compared from 1 week to the next week. So again, like, that's another thing, isn't it? We've got 4 weeks of the month, and in those 4 weeks, we're going to weigh and measure very differently on most of those days. Give or take centimetres. I'm not talking about putting on like 10 pounds or whatever. I'm talking about centimetres, or a pound here or a pound there.
Right.
Because our hormones are changing all the time.
Yes.
We literally fluctuate. We go up, we come down. We go up, we come down. And when you do that, your body is changing all the time. And I think it's really dangerous if we play the game of thinking that we're going to weigh the same from one point of the month to the other point, to the end of the month. Like, that's just not a possibility.
Right.
Because even when you're having food, different foods, when people have more starchy foods, say they have starchy food on one day, you're going to weigh heavier the following day. But 2 days after that, when it's digested properly, you might not.
What was it last week when we got off of the Movement Monday? Oh, so I know that coffee is not necessarily my friend, right?
Yeah.
And I also know that my favorite protein hot chocolate has soy in it, and I have avoided having, and dairy. I have avoided having it since January. But on last Monday, after we got off, I decided I was going to have some coffee, and I was going to put my protein hot chocolate in it because I was just feeling that. I wanted like a mocha. And within, I mean, I don't know, how many sips did I have? Like 3 of it. And all of a sudden, my stomach was so distended that I looked I was like pregnant with Willem, and it was crazy. It was crazy. And then, digestive
yes, because you
issues.
Thought you were doing a video.
Yeah.
You were having a meeting, and you thought you were doing a video meeting, and then the woman sent a message to you saying that it was going to be on the telephone.
Right.
Because you were doing everything in your power to try and make your stomach go down, and it wasn't budging.
Right. Right. I mean, it was like within 5 minutes of just ingesting that. And so these, aside from the fact that whatever, I know that coffee is not my best thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like it was some crazy choice. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I went, off some deep end insanity. It's not like I went and got a Frappuccino, you know, it was like, okay, how can I have what I,
But the
how
problem
can I get my
is
needs
like
met?
that kind of thing is normal to other people. That would be normal. Like you're just going to go and get a frappuccino, or you're going to every single thing that goes into my body, I have to look at. Like for instance, I'm going to a baby shower on Saturday, and I've had to phone ahead to give them a heads up that I cannot have certain foods, I cannot have certain things in, like, because I think it's all buffet food. I cannot have certain sugars, certain carbs, certain this, certain that. Right. And I didn't want the person to have the responsibility of having to make sure that I'm okay. The one big one is obviously no nuts, because
you're actually
that would allergic. Be catastrophe.
Right, but that's
things like allergic. Tomatoes or any of the deadly nightshades, they cause me problems within my joints.
Right.
Any sugars, like any sort of major carbs. When I was asking about drinks, and they said, "Oh, soft drinks." We're going to have, like the diet drinks, and there'll be Prosecco, and there'll be orange juice and apple juice. I can't touch one of those drinks. I would have to drink water. So phoning ahead and just letting people know this is the situation, but if you need me to bring X, Y, and Z, I will do that, because I don't want to cause myself a problem. Right. Especially being miles away from home.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to cause myself a problem with my tummy, or that something's going to happen over the next couple of days because I've had an intolerance and something has kicked off. And that is something that I live with every single day of my life.
Right. Right. Right.
And that is living with lipedema. That is the reality of living with lipedema. And if you don't agree with that, that is something I can't agree with anybody else on. Because the reality is foods do cause inflammation.
Well, this is the big thing. The big thing is that we are so conditioned, especially here in the US, with all the pharmacy, with the pharmaceutical industry, we're so conditioned that every condition has a pill. And if you just take the pill, then you're going to be fine. And people forget the two key points. The two biggest points are that food is medicine and movement is medicine. Both of those things. And without those two things as your foundation, you don't really have a fighting chance. Even if it's something that you are with a pill. It's like, a diabetic who, the diabetic diet that they give somebody in a hospital is like the biggest joke ever, because it has 0 things in it that somebody who is a diabetic should actually eat. So like trying to find all these tricks and ways around it are just, it's not really helpful. It's just not.
I get it where we've got a system where I do understand where women talk about eating normal foods and wanting to be like the normal people and all the rest of it, but you have got to take it on board that you do have a disease in your body and it is detrimental to your disease.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute. So Karen talked about her stress being the problem. I didn't talk about what my issue was yesterday or why I'm not so great today. I went yesterday, was the beach party. See, I have my green
all the time. That just reminds, like your toes and your fingernails. Yeah. All I've been doing whilst I've been sitting here is thinking of Wicked.
Oh yeah. Well, my nail stylist, I've known her for years, and I said I was only going to have my toes done, and I said I want, I got the exact color, was like almost exact color of the bathing suit, because we were given donated bathing suits for the fashion show. So So she's like, no, I'm not putting that on you. And I was like, no, yes, you are. And she's like, no, I'm not putting that on you. That's not your color. And I was like, but I need it. So I pull up a picture of the bathing suit. And she's like, oh God. She's like, but only if you promise to come for a color change. So I was like, okay. And then we had extra time, so she was able to do the nails. So I was like, I said, never, ever in my life, never in my life have I had uh, a color like this. So it was really, really pretty funny. But in any case, I was at the beach party all day. It was hot. I am managed to sunburn myself nicely.
Yeah, no, she is not just sunburned, guys. She's freaking red lobster.
And I am kind of lobster, which I haven't been like this in a long time. I think the back of my leg is too. Oh, and then we figured out that right on my cheeks where my butt was out of the. Anyway, so we arrived at 9:30. I did have about 3 glasses of water before I left. I had my celery juice before I left. And then I had I probably had about 20 ounces of green tea on the way there. Let's just go with that. And I had 1.5 little keto bar, so maybe I had about 200 calories. And that was all at 9:30 in the morning, until 9:30 in the morning. And then I never had anything to drink. I mean, maybe a sip or two of that tea, but not much. Until about 4:30, when I had a cup of water and a salad. And then I did, so the whole day I was either walking in the sand or I was walking in flip-flops. And then I did, after that salad, maybe at like 7 o'clock, I had a piece of regular New York pizza that was wasn't a big slice. It was just a nice slice, very thin crust New York pizza with just cheese and pesto on it. And then I started on an iced tea. So whatever, I had about 10 ounces of iced tea maybe. And while I was driving home, which is like an hour's drive, my calf felt like it was starting to cramp up. And for me, in the world of keto, when I was very, very strict keto, if I was very, very strict keto for, weeks, and then I would have like that, I'm going on a vacation, I have a piece of pizza, wearing flip-flops, I would get leg cramps in the night, like to the point where I can't move. And I would do the recommended, either take a packet of mustard or sips of pickle juice, because that's a remedy for keto muscle spasms. And usually it goes away in a minute. So I was feeling this as I was driving. I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to continue to drive home? But it kind of subsided, worked its way. But the second that I pulled into the driveway, the next episode happened, and that was my right thigh completely seized. And I think that, like I was driving, right? So now I'm doing that. And my left leg completely seized. And I was like, what am I going to do? Because I was, like, I don't know how many, I was far from the house, right? So like, okay, what am I going to do? And then I thought, okay, I actually really have to jump out of this car and go in and get some mustard. And so I did, only it didn't work. And it was not the immediate, like the usual immediate response. I thought, oh my God, now what am I going to do? So I got some water, I added some salt and some of that light salt, which has the potassium. And then I got more mustard. And it's usually yellow mustard that works, but I even then tried Dijon. I was like, I don't really care which kind of mustard, just let me get it. And so then the other leg started to do the same thing, and then it stopped, and I sat again for a while, and then when I went to bed, they both seized up at the same point, and nobody was here, so I had to like drag myself to the kitchen. I'm not really sure how my legs actually even made it. And I'm sure that Karen could have heard me screaming in her house in the UK, because that is how I really thought the neighbors were going to come, because that's how loud I was screaming, because it was so much pain. And basically ended up working through drinking a bottle of electrolyte water, a bottle of that recovery from Suja that had electrolytes in it, a bottle of G3 sugar-free Gatorade, which is what I'm drinking today, more water, more mustard, and then I was so panicked that I couldn't fall asleep.
You tried the jacuzzi as well.
Oh yeah, I went in the jacuzzi. Right. I went in the jacuzzi for what, like a half an hour at least. And then when I was getting out of the jacuzzi, my ankles started seizing up, and I thought, oh my God, now what are we gonna do? And then I got some magnesium spray, sprayed the legs down about 2 times, I think. And then when I got in bed, every time that I thought something was going to happen, I just sprayed it again. And I finally ended up having to take a antihistamine to see if I could just get knocked out to go to sleep at about 3 in the morning. And then that worked. And then this morning, I just feel like I've been hit by a Mack truck. So there was no way that
you need an after sun on that tan.
Yes, I have to go get that. And I have to
you
go
need to
get
keep
more
drinking electrolytes all day. Do the jacuzzi.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do any major training today or anything like that. I'd let your body relax.
You think when I was reading about it last night, it said hot or cold, so I think I could do my both things of going in the jacuzzi and the pool.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
I think that's
but
fine.
It's more about your electrolytes. The reason why that happened was because you were dehydrated in the sun.
Yes. And okay, this is just another, I mean, and there was so much adrenaline, right, from that whole event.
Yeah, of course.
So I realized, which I had completely forgotten about, that I went to the bathroom at 9:30 in the morning, and then I didn't go to the bathroom again until 8:30 at night. So that's crazy.
That's dehydration.
That's just crazy. And the only reason why I went at 8:30 at night.
Be aware of what you're drinking today, because you're going to need to take more and more and more in. Because of what you lost yesterday. But yeah, do the jacuzzi and all the rest of it. I am going to have to cut myself off because it is nearly 10 past, and then I'm on again at past for the workshop. I've sent the link. It's in your inbox.
Okay, great. There's one question over here on from the beginning that talked about lipedema and intimacy, and I think I'm gonna answer it. So I'll see you at the what do you call it, at the meeting? It's
7:30
in 20 minutes. Be back on to the talk lipedema.
The thing is in your inbox for you to register.
But anybody else who'd like to register, it's a Ehlers-Danlos Hypermobility workshop tonight today on talk lipedema. So go to their webpage if you want to sign up. There's still a few spots available. So, okay, see you there. Bye. Love you.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, let me go back to this original question. And I didn't have my things on earlier. Thank you, Warlock. I really appreciate your super chat. Okay, so how is intimacy affected by lipedema? I mean, this is the question. I'm reading the question. Maybe or not. How is it, I mean, is it more difficult to have partners? Does it require a specific partner? And, uh, okay, so no, it doesn't require any type of partner. It does require a specific type of partner, as a matter of fact, actually. It requires a partner with compassion, a partner with patience, a partner with um, interest in learning about how to be intimate with the least amount of pain. Um, it is, likely if you're involved with a woman with lipedema, um, it's probably not going to be a great thing if you're going to want to be, you know, pulling her hard or smacking her hard or any of that kind of thing, because A, it's going to hurt, B, it's going to show bruises all the time, and then those bruises take time to heal. So that's really not fun, right? Um, it as far as uh, the I think that the mobility, depending on size and how, the placement of lipedema, um, it's all about being comfortable in working with each other for the kinds of positions and activities that you can accommodate. So there's that. Um, I think that probably, as far as, comparing a lipedema woman to a woman who is just plus size that doesn't have lipedema, I think that um, remembering that limbs are heavy with lipedema, so there probably needs to be more patience in the tossling about, or how to get from one position to another, or finding a position that works. um, like I said, because of mobility and agility, a person um, without lipedema may have more agility than someone with, um, uh, because their limbs are not as heavy, and they're more malleable and they feel like butter. They don't feel like a bunch of I don't know, rocks under the skin. I always laugh now that I know about this, because I think, wow, what must somebody who doesn't have lipedema feel like? Because that would be kind of boring to just have um, to not feel something different under your skin all the time. So, um, um, there's with lipedema, there's a lot to tactily explore and find out about. Um, uh, so there's that. But the interesting part, this workshop that's being delivered tonight at Talk Lipedema on hypermobility, often um, women with lipedema have this hypermobile aspect to themselves as well. So although they may be able to get into those bendier positions easier, it may be a little bit more difficult. And you also may have to be more protective of, wait, don't let my hip, fall out, my hip joint, or my knee twist, or, that kind of thing. So there is that. You know, I don't think it's, if you're on keto and you muscle spasm, I don't think that there's any difference if you have lipedema or not. That's a thing for anybody on keto. So you have to be aware of that. Stretching first is Always a good thing. um, I found out that I had lipedema in 2017 by a physical therapist who was treating me for a concussion. She did all these kinds of tests. She felt my elbow, she felt my knee, my inside of my knee. She pinched my toe to see where I was on the Baton score for hypermobility. She did, I think there was a pinch test behind the knee. And she did all these things. I just thought she was thorough. And then the very next morning, because I had been on that 6 months of protein bar, protein shake thing, and I knew that I needed to transition back into something that was going to be real food, more sustainable, I was looking at keto. And I had always prioritized protein for at least 10 plus years before that. So I knew that keto was potentially in my wheelhouse. And so I asked a friend who was doing keto, who didn't have lipedema, and she had a coach, how she liked her coach. And she said, oh, I would go with this other coach instead, if I was going to do it again. And so I looked up the other coach, and that is Keto Katrina. And I read her bio, and I was like, this is my life. Like, wait a minute, what is going on? What is this thing, lipedema? And when I went back into the physical therapist, I had seen the physical therapist Friday. Saturday morning is when I read about Katrina. Monday, when I went back into the physical therapist, I said, do you think I have lipedema? And she said, absolutely, no question. I was like, oh my Lord. So now, whether or not she would have told me through our treatment, I don't know, or if it would have been noted in my chart, which, people find this out oftentimes. They note that the medical professional noted something in their chart years ago and never mentioned anything. So I don't know. I think that she would have built up to it thinking that it was going to be a big deal when I learned about it, which it was. And because I had a concussion, I didn't deep dive into it like I normally would have. So it took me a couple of months to kind of try to process it. I had a lot of shock and anger about how could I have been to so many doctors before and nobody told me about it. Um, and I had no idea that they didn't know. That's why they didn't tell me. Um, and then I finally saw Dr. Emily Eicher in October, and she confirmed it. When I went to her office, she walked into the room and she said, who referred you? And I said, oh, I referred myself. And she said, what are you here for? And I said, I'm here to see if I have lipedema. And she says, oh, my darling, you are the classic lipedema. And I said, well, I thought so from what I read, but I wanted to get professional confirmation from an expert. And you were here. So luckily, I'm in Los Angeles. She's in Santa Monica. So it was an easy get to. And then we went from there. So it's been a journey. It has been a journey. And then because I was in such fighting shape at the time, um, she felt that there was no fat on my body other than lipedema. And that, in theory, is fair. And that I should go and have it removed surgically through the specialized surgeons who remove lipedema fat through a particular type of liposuction. And I did go to see 3 professionals at the time, but I had just come into acceptance of my curves, and I was like, wait, you now telling me that I have to get rid of my curves? That's strange. And let me think about that. But also, I had a concussion, and I don't do well under anesthesia on a good day. So there was no way that I was going under anesthesia with a concussion. And so that is kind of how my journey started. So that was kind of off of the table for me right away. And then when I went to look at it again in 2019, I had a number of bouts of atrial fibrillation that year, and that is counter um, productive to the even if I didn't go under anesthesia, the tumescent fluid that they have to use to perform the surgery. So those are two small reasons. I mean, they're really big reasons, but two small reasons why I have not gone down the surgical route. And yeah, that's a little brief summary. So, I thank you all for being here. I hope you gained some more insight, and Lipedema Awareness Month. I hope that each of you, regardless of whether you have lipedema, can mention lipedema at some point during this month to someone, even if it's just, talking to your friend about saying, hey, did you know that there's this disease that 1 in 9 women have this disease called lipedema that gives them that thick shape on the bottom? I don't have this affect, but, often when you see the columnar calves, where people have like a little bit of a cankle or a lot of cankle where there's an overhang at the bottom, that is another hallmark. You see a woman with bruising on her leg, just little bruises like mine that I showed you, this little kind of finger size. I'm like, what did I do yesterday? What did I bang into yesterday? I have no idea. So just mention it to someone. I'm not saying to call people out, because it's a very it's a touchy subject, really. Some people are thrilled to know, and they're happy as anything that somebody has brought this to their attention, and other people are just like, not thrilled in any way. So thank you. I am gonna try and get a little rest. I actually have a whole battery of, I think, about 4 hours of blood tests tomorrow, from that appointment that I had gone to when I was talking about not weighing and the blood pressure thing. And I think one of the keys to that test is I have to be very well hydrated. And I can't drink after midnight, I think. So I got to work on all that today, resupply and supply even more. So yikes. But anyway, that's it for me. I am out. And Movement Monday has changed into Motivation Monday today, because my body is not able to do any movement today, because I took some hits from yesterday. So go back, fast forward through, and see what what it was all about. But anyway, thank you, Warlock, for that super chat. I appreciate it very much. I hope everybody has a great day and gets off to the right foot on this beautiful Monday. And I hope you found some motivation in this discussion. And we'll see you again. All right. Bye for now. Thanks for joining. And thanks again, Warlock. I really appreciate it.